you came here with a purpose, a reason, an intention. We forget to prioritize the meta context of our life. Meta context, so the broader picture, the broader answer to why are we here. Within this relative existence of your life here on earth, you are born and you will die. And that period in between these two events is not that long. It goes by in a blink. So what is important about your life? What should you prioritize? What of that matters ultimately is what we want to find out in this session. Hello, lovely friends. Can you hear me? Great. Hope you're doing well. All right, so today's topic, at least to start with, and then we'll see where it goes. Depends also on where you want to take it, of course. But it is a death exercise, a death imagination exercise. And maybe you've done something similar before. They're quite popular in the New Age world of offerings. But the idea is very powerful. The essential premise is that we're all here for a little while, and we tend to forget this. So we miss the meta context of our lives. We forget to prioritize the meta context of our life. Meta context, so the broader picture, the broader context, the broader answer to why are we here. And as you can imagine, at least for those of you who already believe or know that nothing of significance happens without a cause, or rather an intention. And most of all, an incarnation does not happen lightly. A lifetime does not happen lightly. It's not as random as it appears on a physical level. That means that, and you can symbolize this in whatever way suits you, but this means, at least in my vocabulary, in my world, that you came here with a purpose, a reason, an intention. And that is the meta context of your life. That's the backdrop, that's the background, that's the foundation, that's the blueprint. And it's very easy to forget not only what this blueprint is, which forgetting that is almost a certainty upon incarnation, but it's also easy to forget in the day-to-day swirl of things that you even have a purpose, that there even is this reason for you being here. So obviously we want to remember that we have a reason, an intention for this life. And then hopefully we can penetrate that veil of forgetfulness a little bit more every day and figure out why we are here. In other words, what is that intention? And it's easy to forget because it seems almost like we live forever, which is true in my view, essentially, but not as a physical creature, not on planet Earth specifically. And so within this relative existence of your life here on Earth, you are born and you will die. And that period in between these two events is not that long. It can seem really long if you're bored like myself sometimes. But for most people, it's it goes by in a blink, as they say. And in between those periods, meaning your birth and your death, it's very easy to forget why you were born and that there is a purpose to this. And then what takes precedence, what takes over occupancy of your mind is all the other things, everything you observe on a day-to-day basis, all the details of your life. And then that comes quite automatically with the interpretations that you've learned to give to what you're observing, which are not necessarily germane to you. They're not necessarily naturally, originally your interpretations. And so we call this indoctrination or conditioning, usually, programming. So we observe these things on a day-to-day basis, the elements in our lives, and we automatically label them in a certain way, thinking that we know what they mean and how important they are, and so on and so forth. But what of that matters ultimately is what we want to find out in this session, what we want to get closer, experientially in closer contact with. So what is important about your life? What should you prioritize? And so the basic premise is that you're going to die someday. Might be tomorrow. It might be many, many, many years from now, decades from now. Doesn't really matter either way. The point is you're going to die, and everything that you currently seem to own or possess or are so entertained by or engaged with is no longer going to be part of your experience. And most of these things you cannot bring with you either, except for whatever you have learned. Which gets me to one of my basic suggestions for everyone, which is that we want to understand that the most important reason for our presence here, for our birth here, for our incarnation, if you will, is to learn. And I'll sort of share that on that same pedestal with to share. So you could roughly say it's to share/learn, or to learn/teach. So learn/teaching is the main reason why we are here. And sure, you can enjoy the chocolate and the wine and the sex and the partnership and the thrill rides and the movies. You can enjoy these as you are here, because why not? However, as you guys will already know, this is not the main reason for you being here. It's not the priority. So in my school of thought, I would say that on a shared number one place, why are we here? In general, what that is specifically for you, what the shape of that is part of what you're going to hopefully find out more in today's session. But generally, applying to everyone as a quality of being, as a quality of this creation, I would say the main reason that we're here is to learn/teach. Because that's also the only thing that I know from experience, and feel free to not believe this, but I think a lot of you will agree, that when you do die, the only thing that you do take with you, it's not your car, it's not your house, it's not your partner, it's not your money, but it is what you have evolved into. As a consequence of learn/teaching, of learning and sharing, learning and teaching, learning and teaching, learning and teaching, learning and teaching. And any act of learning, that's why I say learn/teaching, any act of learning is automatically an act of teaching. There's no two ways about it. Just as every act of teaching is automatically inducing learning. I cannot teach something here to you without automatically learning something from it. Now, it may not be a groundbreaking learning for me in that moment. If I'm teaching something I'm already well familiar with, that's maybe new to you, that you haven't integrated yet, then you could say, okay, well, I'm the teacher and you're the learner, you're the student. That's what it appears as on the surface, and that's totally fine. However, I cannot teach you anything, even if it's something I already know through and through for myself. But the very act, the very interaction of me teaching you is causing observation for me of more experience. And that observation equals learning inevitably. Now, we can learn in positive and negative directions. We can learn into the direction of ascension or evolution, or we can sort of devolve, but we cannot not learn. So any act of teaching is an act of learning, and any act of learning is an act of teaching, meaning you cannot learn without teaching me something. It's impossible. And I cannot teach you something without learning something from that, you see. So it's a symbiotic relationship, always, any act of teaching and any act of learning. But this is the only thing that, in my opinion, you will take with you when you die. It's what you have learned, not necessarily book study, learning, knowledge, facts about history, or although, yes, that is retained as well in consciousness because everything that has ever happened is available within that, for lack of a better word, quantum field of consciousness. It will forever be available. However, in a more relevant sense, the learning that you take with you is the evolved version of yourself that you have become, the evolution. The greater learned, the expanded version, the more realized version of yourself as an individuated consciousness, what many people call a soul, that will have inevitably learned throughout your lifetime. And so what you take with you from this life is yourself. What you have extracted from this in terms of learning, and what you have accomplished in terms of sharing, teaching, radiating. Hope this makes sense. That's the basic premise. We're here for a short while. We're all going to die. The only thing you'll take with you is who you've become. In other words, what you've learned. Okay, assuming that that makes sense to some degree. Now, how do we accelerate that learning? In other words, how do we optimize the very purpose, the intention of our existence here, of our life? How do we fulfill our, call it destiny or potential or ultimate desire or your calling, perhaps, your purpose? How do we accelerate that? How do we make sure that at the end of our lives, when we sort of graduate from this physical focal point of consciousness, how do we get to a place to where we feel more than satisfied, where we feel truly content, deeply content, happy, without regrets, proud of ourselves almost, you could say, without the ego in it, but just a sense of fulfillment, satisfaction with your own efforts, with your own intentionality, with your own sincerity, how pure you've been, how sincere you've been, how willing you've been. You may not have been perfect. There may have been things that you regret, but all on the whole, overall, in broad terms, do you feel happy with how you constituted yourself in this life? And are you happy with, perhaps, more specifically, some of the things and projects that you wanted to fulfill, that you wanted to execute, usually having to do with teaching and learning, or learning and teaching? Spreading the good word, if you will, spreading the word of awakening, instructing people into the nature of their consciousness, their capacity as a being, their purity, their love, their freedom as a soul, and so on and so forth. All these beautiful things that we're working to disseminate here. And a powerful way to optimize our learning, to accelerate our destiny, to make sure we're on track, or that we can fine-tune ourselves more to be more on track more of the time, is by picturing our own deathbed phase. So hence the exercise that I shared in the Telegram group a few days ago, and I asked you to complete that homework before the session. If you're not in the Telegram group, then I again recommend that you join that Telegram group. Otherwise, you'll miss prompts like this. Not a huge deal. You'll still be able to catch up, but it would be more ideal if you can catch those prompts and some of the homework. So the idea basically is to go to your deathbed visualization, picturing that suddenly maybe someone or something or some doctor announced that, hey, you have a few days left to live. Now, don't picture this too hard every single day, because you don't want to necessarily manifest that reality, which, don't worry, that won't really happen. It's more a joke than anything else. You won't really manifest your death before you're actually ready to go. But the exercise is to get a sense of what it would feel like at the end of your life. So you can either imagine that that's the case now, like you get this sort of deathbed announcement now at your current age. Or if you prefer, you can picture yourself much older, 80, 90, 100, whatever you desire or think, whenever you think you'll die. And you can picture it happening then, being on your deathbed. Whatever works better for you. They both kind of have different flavors, nuances that they evoke. And so they each serve their own purpose. But Try them both, see what you like better. But the basic concept is the same. You project yourself onto your deathbed or deathbed announcement, and you realize, okay, what if I only had a few days left to live? And I look back upon my life. First of all, am I happy? Regardless of how I feel right now, am I happy? Because happiness is not ultimately a feeling. It's bigger than that. So am I content, for lack of a better word? Am I happy with who I am, who I've become, or at least what my attitude has been throughout who I've become and who I've been? Have I prioritized? Have I paid enough attention to what is the intention of my life? What is it that I wish to share? And what is it that I wish to learn? And have I prioritized my life around that learn/teaching principle? Or learn/radiating or sharing principle, if you prefer that over teaching. And so a lot of you guys did the homework, and some of you shared in the group, which I appreciate. Some nice, heartfelt, transparent posts. And then the exercise is, okay, notice the things that you regret, essentially. Notice the things that you're not so happy with. The attitudes, the patterns, the habits, the complacency, the laziness, perhaps the misprioritization of certain elements of your life. Classic example, putting money above your purpose or calling, or even putting relationship above your purpose or calling. It's very tempting for a lot of people to do that as well. Or putting money above relationship or above your family, perhaps. Or putting some kind of an idea about needing to have a successful career or needing to be somebody in the eyes of others, and putting that above the simple purity of being attuned to why you are actually here, what you actually want to teach and learn. And then designing your life, allowing your life to flow around that basic intention, around that instinctive memory of why you are here. Looking back on your life, on your deathbed, not having any time left to do anything, just 2-3 days left. Or maybe not even 3 days left. What if you had 10 minutes left? See, so you can play with this imagination as you see fit. But what if you had 10 minutes left? And you had to do a quick life review right now. And you'd see yourself in all honesty, in all transparency, with full awareness, with nothing to hide or defend from yourself anymore, because what's the point? You're no longer living for the judgment of others because you're about to die, so who cares? So now you can be totally honest with yourself and even with others. Of course, you're about to pop out, and you can't take anything with you, including your relationships. So looking back then, are you happy with your prioritization in life? Are you happy with your focus, with your intentionality? And don't judge whatever answer arises, whatever feeling arises. It might be a mixture. It might be like, overall, yes, I forgive myself, I love myself, I'm proud of myself. And I wish this would have happened a little differently. I wish I would have prioritized this. I wish I would have apologized here or there, or prioritized perhaps teachings like this, or your calling, expressing your calling, acting on your passion, and so on and so forth. Either way, don't judge what you perceive. We want to do this exercise in a total atmosphere of forgiveness. It's very important. And forgiveness applies to self just as much as it applies to other selves. For your information, when I use the term other selves, I simply mean others, but since they are ultimately yourself, they are more accurately called other selves. They are the rest of yourself. from that meta perspective. All right, so before you came to Earth, so to speak, to kind of use a new agey angle, if you will, before you came to Earth, what do you sense was your intention? What did you want to carry out or radiate or share, and what did you want to learn? Can you get a sense of that just in the next minute intuitively? Just by relaxing, not wanting anything from anything. Accept an answer from your higher self to this question, but other than that, you don't want anything. And so kind of curiously ask yourself, with a very open mind, an open heart, and a transparent state of mind, what's the quality that I most wanted to learn, to perfect, to fine-tune, to balance here in this life? What have been some of my major, almost thematic lessons or cyclical patterns of learning, of mistakes, of learning, of mistakes, of learning, of mistakes, of learning? Can I detect a pattern there? What am I most stubborn in, for instance? Because that's usually a good sign of what you're here to learn, is what you are most stubborn against or in. Which lesson have you had to learn more than once? That will be a giveaway for what your sort of theme of learning is for this particular life. We'll give you a general area to look in. What has been the most recurring lesson for you, the most recurring theme? And for a lot of you, you'll find that it has something to do with relationships. In one way, shape, or form, of course, everything ultimately is a relationship. Even when it's with a house or with money or with career and obviously with people. But for most of us, there is a lot to learn in relationship with other human beings. Not for all of us. Some people do choose different themes. They do choose different primary lessons. But for the majority of people, a lot of the lessons that we wish to learn are not about interacting with humans so much, but they are certain qualities that we practice, that we wish to learn and balance and realize, and we do it through the vehicle of human interaction, because that's the most potent, the most powerful, the most intimate way of learning these particular qualities. Let's say patience. Relationship can be a perfect way to learn patience. Or love and forgiveness can be a perfect quality to learn through the vehicle of an abusive relationship or a less than ideal dynamic. So it's not ultimately about the relationships themselves, but it's about, again, what you learn from it, because you won't take the relationship with you when you die, not in this form, not in this physical package at least. The connection will survive, but the package will disappear. So what you will take with you, however, is everything that you've evolved into as a result of the vehicle of that human relationship.
Massaro University is a vibrant online community dedicated to accelerating your awakening and activating your purpose for the benefit of all. Join live sessions with Bentinho and workshops led by experienced facilitators. Deepen your wisdom, empowerment, and self-knowledge, and experience life-changing shifts week after week. At Massaro University, finding like-hearted seekers is easy and inevitable. Lifelong friendships and a shared purpose fuel profound personal and collective growth. Create your free account today at massaro.university and step into a community that's designed to elevate every aspect of your life.
So see if you can note down or identify what are some of your themes here. What are some of your biggest lessons in this life that you really want yourself to pay attention to from a, if you will, higher consciousness or higher self sort of level, from a meta perspective, from before your birth, if you're willing to accept for a second that you're incarnating with an intention and that you are already an evolved being before you entered this life. You're not just a physical creature that just appeared out of nowhere and somehow you are this smart, intelligent, and self-aware. that happened through many, many, many cycles of evolution. You got to where you were as a soul, and now you've chosen a vehicle for expression, for learning, for incarnating, which is your current body and the mind that sort of developed around that body. So if you're all willing to accept this hypothesis, which to me is a reality, it's just the way that this works, this illusion, then what for you specifically was your main intention to learn? What did you really want to add to your soul in terms of a balancing aspect, a balancing quality? So if perhaps you were a little hasty in your prior experiences, you are teaching yourself patience, to find rest and happiness and contentment and fulfillment in the moment as it is without it needing to change into anything. That's just one example. It's a very general example. It's an example of something that a lot of us are learning, no matter what theme we're choosing to explore. Patience, love, willingness, the training of our will, the honing of our will, the focusing of our will, becoming more intentional, remembering what we are more often, learning to love, learning to be generous, learning to feel safe regardless of what occurs, to know our safety, to have faith. These kind of qualities are very general, but nevertheless, those are the universal qualities, the main, the primary types of qualities that every being is here to master in the end. So a lot of these qualities will be part of your theme. And then in addition, you'll see more specific expressions of your theme. You'll be able to observe that through this type of an exercise. By considering your life as a whole, and kind of rewinding to some of the core memories, some of the challenges, and see what is it that I specifically am trying to learn here? What unique combination or flavor of patience, of love, of generosity, of forgiveness, of awareness, of clarity, of compassion? What quality, what kind of unique combination of these qualities am I attempting to improve at, if you will, in this school of the universe? And what if you didn't have much time left to prioritize the learning, the full embodiment of these qualities, the full acceptance of your theme of learning, why you are here, the challenges, what you are stubborn in? What if you only had 3 days left to let go of what you are stubborn in and to forgive instead, and to open up instead, and to remember that it's not about being right and that in fact you don't know shit for the most part? What if you had 3 days left to come to such surrender? To open your heart, your mind, to that greater self, that greater reality, that invisible cause of the visible reality, the invisible being more primary. It's always the invisible that's causing the visible. What if you had 3 days left to surrender to this, to accept what you came here to learn, to imbibe it, to embody it, to surrender to that, to those qualities? Wouldn't your next 3 days look rather incredible in their simplicity, in their focus? Suddenly you would drop everything else, wouldn't you? You would want to get the most out of these last 3 days. Try to learn all the lessons of a lifetime you've been resisting for decades and try to accept them finally within 3 days. Oh, time is up? Well, then let me get going. And here is my point with this exercise, or one of the main points, is you guys don't nearly have enough of a sense of urgency. There might be a handful of you guys who are OCD and perfectionistic like I was at a soul level, and still am in some regards, that already put too much pressure on themselves, that already over-prioritize their learnings, that take on too much learning, too fast, too intensely. But for the most part, most of you will find on this deathbed visualization that looking back, you could have prioritized your lessons, your surrender to God, if you will, your surrender to your higher self, your surrender to listen to the heartbeat, the rhythm of creation more. Most of you will find that you could have acted, trusted in, acted on your passion, what truly excites you at an instinctual, unexplainable level, in the face of everyone doubting that or throwing caution into your face or doubting you in that regard, but you somehow knowing something about this I have to do. Something about this has to do with my evolution. Something about this direction in life. I don't know why, but I just feel. It is whole. It is a complete kit. It will guide me. It will protect me. It will teach me. I have to act on this passion. And you will find that you could have been a little bit more liberal in that. You could have been a little bit more generous and focused. You could have prioritized your reason for being here more. Would you agree? There's all some Netflix component to our personality. We just want to Netflix our way through our experiences. And this is not meant as a judgment. And again, for some of you, I don't think most of you, but for some of you, you've been trying to prioritize it too hard in this direction, which is also an imbalance. So maybe for you, you can soften this a little bit. I'm not talking about the judgment, because we all tend to judge ourselves too much, whether we're on the complacent side of the equation of acting on our calling, or whether we're on the overactive, overzealous side of wanting to find out why we're here and what we're here to do, and we need to get it done fast and so on. On whichever side of the spectrum you are, on the lazier end or the overworking end, or maybe somewhere nicely, squarely in the center, congratulations. We all tend to judge ourselves in our own ways. So that's not what I'm talking about. That's universal. But for those on the overzealous side, see if you can relax that, if you can trust more that you already know who you are, that you already know why you're here, that you've already accomplished a lot of this because of the intensity of your intention. And for those on the lazier side, see if you can find out why. What have you been protecting? What have you been afraid of when it comes to considering stepping into your calling, into your true expression, and into your self-realization more completely, more powerfully, more freely, with less inhibition, with less concerns, with more trust, with a complete trust in your own path, in your own guidance, in your own passion, in your own realization. What held you back? Or what made you overzealous? What made you over-adrenalized in your passion? Because that's probably also a doubt. It's a fear. It's based in, oh, I'm going to lack something if I don't figure it out right now today. So both sides are imbalanced in a way and don't produce the optimal, satisfactory contentment that we desire when we're on our deathbed. So then the next question is, what must I believe is true in order to not have optimally, so far, and there's still time, so don't worry, right? You're still young. Even if you're old, you're still young. There's plenty of time. You can do it in 3 days. And most of you have got way more time than 3 days left. So don't worry. You can learn everything you want to learn in a matter of days. And this is absolutely true. In fact, you can learn it in a moment if you truly have to. If the perceived need is high enough, you can learn lessons instantaneously. You can attain sort of an enlightenment in the moment, right before you pass. And some people do. So before I go back to the question, let me continue on this little rant here. Why can people do that when they're on their deathbed? Why can people somehow suddenly have this amazing awakening where their entire personality changes from this grumpy old insistent little bitter person, for instance, or some version of that, to this like open-hearted, like nothing matters except I love you guys and you're all perfect and tears down your face and I see God and this is beautiful. And then assuming that it's not just some kind of a brain fart, chemistry, psychedelic hallucination at the end of a life of dementia, but assuming it's a genuine, which often in those cases, they're also spiritual experiences, but they're just not properly translated by the brain. But assuming that you have sort of an actual awakening, and people do a lot on their deathbed, because why? And this answer to that is the same answer to the question, why are we doing this exercise? Why do I recommend a deathbed imaginal meditation? Why can someone shift who was unable to shift for decades? They were predictable in their patterns. You already knew, oh, if I'm going to bring up this topic, this will be what they start talking about. And if I'm going to say this, this is what they'll say. Like, I'd rather just not call because I know exactly who they think they are. And there's no two ways about it. There's just this train track of a personality. Why are some of those people, some of the most rigid, dense, stagnant minds, able, not always, obviously, but sometimes, able to pop through right before their death and change completely, like feel completely different, like a completely different entity? Why is that? Urgency. A perceived need. There's few things as powerful as having a perceived need. How many times in your life did you think you couldn't do something, that you weren't able to do something? Let's say public speaking. And then you had to, and you did it, and it felt liberating, and you were even good at it. How many times have you said to yourself, no, that's not for me, I can't do that, da, da, da. And then a need presented itself, a dire need, perhaps. Maybe someone was at risk. Very simple exercise. You might have a belief that you are shy and that you're so shy that you don't even tend to ask for directions. You don't want to bother people. Really, you don't want to bother yourself, expose yourself, but it seems like, oh, I don't want to bother. Never mind. I'll find my way. It may take me half an hour longer, but I'll find my way. I'm not going to bother someone and ask for direction. But then your child is sick and it's in the back of the car and you need to find your way to the hospital. What are you going to do? Are you still a shy person that can't ask for directions? Or do you not even think about who you think you are, who you assume you are, this crystallized, dense self-esteem idea that holds you back, that, oh no, this is who I am. I'm shy, I'm introvert, I don't want to disturb people, I can't ask for directions, I'm shy. Or would you just say like, hey, mister, where's the hospital? Quick, my child's in danger. And without even thinking about whether you're shy or not. So you see, perceived need can cause complete shifts in human consciousness, in human identity. And all identity is self-assumed. Right now, you assume you are what you are. It's an assumption. There's nothing in reality that confirms this. It's exactly and only by your own will that you say that you think that you are who you are, that that's who you are. No tree in this planet, on this planet, or in this planet, who knows? No tree on this planet or in this planet agrees with that statement. You can say whatever you want to a tree, and it'll be like, whatever, dude. Keep on growing. The sun is shining. My leaves are fine. Nothing in creation is confirming your identity bias, what you think you are, should be, and so on. It's entirely self-attributed by yourself. And so this is why none of that is real. None of the stuff you think you are is real. The only way why it's manifesting your reality and your personality and limiting you in the ways that it is consistently doing, and therefore limiting your expression of your reason for being here, making you afraid of your full freedom, your expression, your truth, your realization. All these things are a facade. They're completely made up by you. With the help of a lot of your friends, with a little help of your friends. You made this shit up. And now you think it's solid, it's real. But if your child's in danger, you're no longer shy. You're not even concerned about asking directions. You just do what you need to do to save your child. Simple. So if it's not real always, it's never real. Here's a mantra for you. It applies to almost everything, maybe everything. If it's not real always, it's never real, even while it appears to be there. So if you can ask for directions sometimes and not be shy, you are never shy. This is just one example. Of course, you got to apply it to yourself. How do you see yourself, and what are the limitations you impose upon yourself, the beliefs about yourself? And just remember that all of these are fictional, optional, artificial, created by you with a little help of your friends. Your society, your government, your parents, your media, your friends' friends, your teachers maybe. You get some image in your mind and you believe that that's what you are, and now you're going to live according to that image. That's how, part of it at least, how you create your own reality and your own personality. But it is always good to remember that it's completely false, and when people have an urgency, like on their deathbed, suddenly they begin to prioritize why they came to Earth, and suddenly they no longer perceive any benefit in staying stubborn in what they refuse to learn and face and acknowledge and forgive and apologize for and forgive themselves for and others for, and relax into, surrender into, embody, and so on. Because what's the point? You've got 3 days left. Suddenly that doesn't matter anymore. The perceived need has shifted. Now, if you think of high performance, to use another little side example, high performance, like let's say Elon Musk. What is the reason? And I'm not saying that you should be a high performer in that sense at all. I'm just using an example. Why are they high performance in their fields? Because they perceive a great need to be that. Had they not had that perceived need, they would be Netflixing just as much as maybe sometimes you are on your lesser days. They'd be consuming life as it comes to them and just observing it and just complaining about it and reacting to it and maybe trying a little bit here or there to change. But why are high performance? High performance is because they perceive an absolute need for what they're doing. Sometimes this is very selfish and based in lack belief, such as, I must make a lot of money and I must make a name for myself because then I'm someone, I'm worthwhile, I'm going to be validated, and I'm going to be seen. And sometimes, in some cases, it's a very pure soul pressure, if you will. It's a perceived need for the benefit of the planet, for instance. But in both cases, doesn't matter, the same mechanism applies here, which we can learn from. Whenever you have a perceived need in your life, you will act accordingly no matter what you think about yourself. No longer are those limitations limiting you. You can suddenly become whatever you need to be. You can shape yourself. You can change your personality overnight. You can open your heart chakra. You can start radiating. You can forgive everyone that you've been angry with, so on and so forth. If the perceived need is high enough, and on their deathbed, when people realize they're about to die, there's no greater perceived need than that. Like, now it's time to really let go. It's time to really forgive. It's time to really realize what you wanted to realize. And I want you to bring this with you into your day-to-day observation more often. And begin to look at life from death. And I don't mean this in any dark kind of a way. It's a beautiful thing. Because actually, for instance, in my own experience, this is pretty much my constant state of observation. This is how I constantly observe my life, is from a state of death, or what people call death. It's really not death, but it's a state of self, of your own being, or in this case, I'll speak for myself. It's a state of knowing myself beyond this life. So I don't actually have the sense or experience that I am alive anymore. But therefore also I know I cannot die. It transcends that duality. But I don't feel like I'm a live person, human being. So my day-to-day filter, if you want to call it a filter or vantage point or point of view, which I encourage you to develop because of its many benefits, soul aligning benefits, I filter, if you will, my day-to-day experiences from the vantage point of already being dead. Because you are going to die, so therefore, in effect, you actually are already dead. There's a very small difference between someone sentenced to death and the day they actually die. Like, what's the difference? It's not that big. The only difference is they can still move their body around. but they're effectively already dead. And the moment you were born, you received your death sentence. So the moment you were born, you were already dead. Except you had the ability to move around and say some stuff while you're here. So this may sound unappealing to some of you guys, but I can guarantee you when you understand where I'm coming from with this, it's a very bright light in your life that will guide your actions, that will guide your prioritization and make it so much easier for you with much less effort, with much less resistance to your soul, to learn the lessons you want to learn and to do the things you need to do, that you came here to do and express and share and learn from. Because if you're already dead, then what's the difference? Then you might as well do it. But if you believe, oh, you're alive and you're never going to die, which is somehow what we think when we're physically alive, we have this weird sense of, I'm just going to live my life. Oh, there's tomorrow, there's tomorrow, there's tomorrow. No, you've received a death sentence the moment you were born. People don't realize this enough, and therefore they prioritize the wrong things while they seem to be alive. From a point of view of true consciousness, what you really are before this life and after this life, you are that same state now during this life. It's just covered up with this virtual reality, this perception of the senses and the agreements that you've made with the peoples and the souls that you're creating this sort of consensus reality experience with, but it's very much like a simulation. Your true state of consciousness beyond that space from where you right now are hearing my voice that you cannot explain, but you cannot deny. That which knows this moment, and this moment, and this moment, that mysterious intrinsic power to know, is not dead or alive. It is as it is. It transcends the idea of being born and dying and all that. So in a sense, you are already dead, or you could say you have never been born. However, what you do have is an expression right now, the ability to express yourself within this particular dimensional playing field. Call it the Earth game, if you will. And so you are here for a short while, hopefully to grace this planet with your presence, with your love, with your willingness, with your unique soul qualities. So why not prioritize that? But if you're too attached to, oh, I'm alive and I need to stay alive and I need to be in this way, I need to develop that and I need to secure myself in this way, and then you're going to prioritize all the things you didn't come here for and all the things you cannot take with you. So it's a far better state to already assume yourself dead. Then you can live far more freely. You can be much more alive when you are dead than when you assume that you are alive for a brief period of time. Because then you become possessive of the observations within this virtual reality. And you start chasing things and objects in particular relationships. Why not pretend you're already dead and now look at your life as an opportunity for learning and teaching? If you cultivate some of this awareness every day, not only will you begin to align your physical life with your calling, with your expression, with your true desire for this life, but also, not unimportant, you're going to liberate yourself far more effectively from your attachments to this playing field, from the delusions, the contractions of this playing field. One of the reasons someone can shift on their deathbed and release everything all at once is because all their attachment disappears, because they know they're going to lose it anyway. And then they're suddenly free. They're just radiating. They're just beaming love. They're just beaming bliss. They're already essentially in heaven. And often they describe that like, oh, I see the light now. Well, you could have always seen the light, you silly goose. You just had to let go of your attachments, your ideologies, your insistences. You just have to die before you die. That's the only way to live a free existence. It's with no strings attached. It's with pure passion, with pure love for the right reasons. And then you will be guided by a higher intelligence, a greater clarity, an intuition that cannot be described. But it's all those little attachments and misprioritizations that blind you from your natural state of wisdom and clarity and freedom and love and courage. Make sense? All right. So, live like there's no tomorrow. And live as if you're already dead. Of course, with some measure of responsibility and care for others, but you get the point. I don't have to give all these nuances. I hope. Just don't be stupid. Take my advice, but don't be stupid. Here, so we've got everything covered. All the nuances.
Thank you for watching this Bentinho live session. Bentinho now hosts these transformative live sessions completely free, offering profound insights and guidance to support your journey. To attend the next live session with Bentinho, simply visit massaro.university and follow the instructions to create your free account.